Hi guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, I want to show you Rhyncholaelia digbyana, and my apologies for the pile of pots in the back. I got almost all my orchids in pots and mounted them, so there are just a lot of pots that I need to use for something else. They're just piling back up there. And also, this one is currently in its pot because it's in flower, but I will probably mount it after the flower fades. So going back to the plant itself, I've recently become a little bit obsessed with Rhyncholaelia digbyana just because of the fragrance. So I got quite a few to add to my collection, and this is one that is still fortunately in bloom. Right now it's mid-late March. It's kind of just past or towards the end of their flowering season in the Northeast. But I'm really glad I was able to find this one that's still in bloom. Before I go into the details about the blooming part of this plant, and just wanted to show you what this plant looks like overall. It is not a huge cattleya in terms of, if you consider all the modern cattleya hybrids or some of the bigger cattleya species, but this was known as Brassivola Rhyncholaelia. Now it's in the Rhyncholaelia genus, but it's broadly within that cattleya alliance, and you can see they're all sympodial and they look just like a cattleya. One thing about this plant is that it grows really nicely compact, and all the pseudobulbs and leaves go upwards, so even if you don't have a lot of space, you can probably accommodate a mature specimen. And unlike some of the other cattleyas, they just keep walking out of the pot very easily and become sort of viney in a way. This one stays really compact. The pseudobulbs are pretty close together. I mean, they're not the closest, but they're pretty close, and the biggest part is that all the pseudobulbs are super upright and they stay pretty compact. In this tiny pot that's probably 4 inches. Clay pot, there's 7 mature pseudobulbs, and the pseudobulbs are pretty good size themselves, and the leaves are also pretty big. And one thing that everyone notices when they look at these plants is this epicuticular wax crystals. This one has been washed off a bit because it's probably an old leaf. No, I can't find a good example of those wax crystals on this plant. Let me see if I can go find it on my other plant. Okay, covering the camera now so that you don't get sick. All right, this is more in the sun. I don't know if you can see it. You can see this, the back of this leaf is a little bit glaucous, and the front of this leaf is also a little bit white, powderish, and those are those wax crystals on top of the leaf. I think sometimes people call them bloom, to protect the leaves from the sun and as the reflective layer, like their own sunscreen. So this is a really good indicator of the Rhyncholaelias. It's also present on the glaucas. Let me see if I have a glauca to show you. It's against the light. I don't know what you can see, but if you can see anything on this leaf, it's a little bit white. Again, those aren't the best examples. There are probably better ones out there. Oh, you know what? I know where a good one is. Okay, so that one is probably a little bit more visible. In the back, you see those wax crystals that are making it white. Okay, so enough about those things. Let me go back to my main plant. It's a really cool plant. It's handsome. It's a space saver, and it's just a gorgeous plant even without a flower. But what makes this plant really stand out is its flower. This one is, if I can pull the name tag out, oh, it's a bit stuck in there, but I don't know if you can see, that's the name tag of this specific one. One of the most famous cultivar out there is probably Mrs. Chase or Miss Chase or Mr. Chase. I forgot. But that's probably the best one in terms of flower quality conforming to the AOS standard, meaning they're rounder and more full. This flower, although you can see the petals are narrower and it's more, yeah, it's not as full or round as if you look at Mrs. Chase. That's probably a rounder example of this species. But this flower is huge. I have an ordinary sized hand and look at it, it's gorgeous, it's so big. And of course, the most distinctive feature and also telling this species apart from its cousin Rhyncholaelia glauca are those fimbriated lip. Some cultivars have those frilled petals as well, but not on this one. And some of the cultivars has longer frills than the others, but they all sort of have this. And this feature is also present on a lot of its progenies. And if you see any of the frilled lip, probably not as this dramatic, but on any of the hybrids, you can probably guess digbyana is one of the parent. And to a degree that digbyana is such a linchpin in the modern Camellia hybrids these days, it just goes to say how gorgeous this flower is. And most importantly, in my opinion, this flower is what really sets it apart is its fragrance. Needless to say, you can probably find so many people saying this is powerfully fragrant at night. It smells to me like, it reminds me of a really good light key lime pie. It's not the same scent, but it's definitely a little bit citrusy. It's a little bit smooth. It's very smooth actually, and I find the fragrance a little bit heavier than some of the other fragrant flowers. For example, I did an experiment. I put this in a dark, well actually, the full story was I got this one that was, the bud was just about to open, and so this one didn't smell as strong as I'd expected, and I suspect it's because when you move the plant when it's already in flower and you change the environment drastically, you know, from a commercial greenhouse to my apartment, the flower tend to lose some of its potency and scent. My first Brassavola nodosa didn't really smell for the same reason. But so it wasn't smelling as strong as I expected. I thought it was because of the humidity, so I put it in the bathroom after I turned on the hot water for like 20 minutes, turned off the vent so that, and closed the door so the entire bathroom was super humid and dark. And then I put this plant in it about evening time, and about half an hour later I went in to smell it. I couldn't really smell anything honestly when I was just walking in the door, and I think it was because there was no air movement, because you know fragrance is such a it's just chemicals in the atmosphere, right? So when there's no air movement and those molecules don't really diffuse very easily. But in my case, especially one of the other reasons that's supporting my theory of this scent being heavier, not just like the sensation of it, but also just like molecularly, it's probably that first, it didn't really diffuse very well in the bathroom by itself, and also humidity doesn't help. But when I bent down into the bathtub where this plant was, I got this huge waft of its fragrance just in my face. And then I took the plant out, and probably like 2 hours later, there's still some lingering scent in that corner, not diffused in the bathtub. So that goes to say how powerfully, strongly fragrant this plant is. And yeah, you just can't go wrong with it. I've never met one single person that really hates this fragrance. You know, there are so many different kinds of fragrance in the orchid world. Not even the rotten meat bulbophyllum, just, you know, even the more fragrant ones, some people don't like it. But for this one, I think most people really like it. I personally really like it. It's great. Okay, and of course, you know, it's powerful. It can fill up a room, no problem. I'm waiting on mine to bloom more next year, so hopefully those fragrances will be more potent being in my apartment, adjusting to its environment for a year or so. But yeah, regardless, it's gorgeous, gorgeous fragrance. And also in terms of fragrance, it has a cousin, Rhyncholaelia glauca. Those are the two species in the Rhyncholaelia genus, and between those two, there is a primary hybrid called Rhyncholaelia aristocrat. That hybrid is supposed to, from my research, smell a little bit like in between, but also has a pretty significant digbyana scent to it. I've never smelled a glauca before. I've never smelled aristocrat before, but I just ordered both, and I have both. So hopefully I'll be able to smell them soon. And in terms of its natural distribution, and this plant is from Central America, from the Yucatan part of Mexico, pretty much down through Belize, down to Honduras. Actually, I think it's the national flower of Honduras, and even maybe in Costa Rica. But along that strip of the warm, humid part of Central America. So that pretty much will tell you that it likes it warm. It likes it, well, I guess it can't really tell you it likes it bright, but it also likes it bright in terms of culture, from probably the thick leaf and those glaucous leaves to reflect, to protect them from the sun as well. As a matter of fact, some people say that you should just put them in full sun, as long as it doesn't burn the leaves. In my care, so far, the leaves haven't been burnt, but what I noticed was when it's about to put out new roots on a mound, the mound get really hot in the sun, and that burns the new roots tip. So I would just be careful when you do that. Just make sure you don't destroy the roots. As you know, the roots are probably the most important part of a good plant. And what I was gonna say. Oh yeah, it likes it warm. I think some people even classify it as a hot grower. And I think I looked up some of the climate data on around its natural habitats. I think it's about like 85, 90 during the day, and about 70 at night. So it's closer to the tropic, so it doesn't experience a huge seasonal fluctuation or huge diurnal day-night temperature difference. And so that's what I would try to mimic in my care. And of course, it loves humidity. I can provide the temperature. I cannot deal with the humidity. I can't deal with it myself. So that's the part where I sort of just sacrifice my plants. And I'm just like, I'm gonna spray you without increasing the air humidity, because the air humidity makes me miserable. Okay, so highlight, loves humidity. And one thing I want to mention is that a lot of people think this species is a little bit more finicky than the Rhyncholaelia glauca cousin, and that is to a degree true. And I believe both species will grow out new roots after a pseudobulb is mature. So right now, let me see. The flower is coming out of this pseudobulb. I don't know if you can see, but there's no roots on this pseudobulb just yet. And the roots should, hopefully, push out once the flower fades and the pseudobulb growth is mature. And that's common in some of the other species, especially bifolias too, that some people say they're finicky, but they just don't really grow out roots until a pseudobulb is mature, and some even push out new roots while the plant is in bloom. So you just have to be careful in terms of when you mount or when you repot them. But overall, this is a really tough species. It has really thick leaves, has a lot of resources within the plant itself. So usually, hopefully, it doesn't pose a huge problem. But compared to Rhyncholaelia glauca, this is indeed a slower grower. It doesn't get too big. That can be a pro and con, if you want to keep it compact especially horizontally, not vertically, this is a really good option. And glauca has a habit of branching out multiple leads and soon become a really round, bushy plant, sort of a specimen-sized plant. But the digbyanas don't really do that as much. And of course, the care for glauca, because of that, many people say it's easier. I agree to a degree. And in terms of the primary hybrid aristocrat, I've never grown it a lot before. I just got mine like a few days ago, so I can't say anything. But being a primary hybrid with hybrid vigor, it probably is easier to grow than digbyana. And the flower characteristics, feel free to look it up. It's probably in between. It doesn't have all the frills as much as this species, but it does look like in between in terms of the flower, between those two parent hybrids, between the two hybrid parent species. Sorry, I'm losing my mind. That's an indicator of this video becoming way too long, so I'll shut up and let me just think if there's any last thing I want to say. Nope, I can't think of anything. So yeah, hopefully you can get your hands on a Rhyncholaelia digbyana, and please be patient with it. That's what I tell myself. It will eventually, I got this one because I was impatient. It cost like an arm and leg. But it's a really rewarding species. I would highly encourage you grow it. And yeah, gorgeous flower. I will enjoy it as much as I could while it lasts. It's been open for half a week so far. I think it opens from researching online, maybe a couple weeks, 3 weeks or so. So I will have many lovely nights accompanied with this lovely fragrance. And okay, I will truly shut up and thank you so much for your time, and I will see you next time.